During a tour of Iceland, a tourist kept asking me when we were going to see the northern lights. I explained, it's a natural phenomenon dependent on solar activity and clear skies. After waiting for an hour in the cold, she came up to me and said, "This is ridiculous. Can't you just call someone and tell them to turn it on?" We pay good money for this tour. In Vegas, the shows start on time. This is very unprofessional. I was working at a travel agency in Lisbon when an American couple came in to plan a day trip. They pointed at a map of Europe and said, "We want to see the Parthenon in the morning and then be back in Portugal for a late dinner." I stared at them, confused, and explained that Athens is in Greece, over 2,000 miles away. The husband scoffed and said, "Don't be ridiculous. They're both in Europe. Aren't they? How far apart can they be? Can't we just get a high-speed train or an Uber?" I was working in a pub in Australia when an American ordered a pint. I served it to him, and he immediately complained, "This isn't a pint. It's too small." I explained that an Australian pint is smaller than an American pint. He slammed his hand on the bar and said, "A pint is a pint. It's a universal measurement. You can't just change the size of it. This is false advertising. You're cheating people with your fake Australian pints." A woman came into my bookstore in Edinburgh and asked for a book about the English Civil War. I showed her to the history section. She came back a few minutes later and said, "No, I want the one about Captain America and Iron Man. The movie Don't You Have a novelization? It's a huge part of American history." I had to explain that the movie was a work of fiction. She looked at me with pity and said, "You poor thing. You really believe that?" My cousin hosted an American exchange student who was shocked to find out we didn't celebrate the 4th of July in France. She genuinely asked, "Hey, but it's like a huge holiday. Don't you guys celebrate your independence?" My cousin patiently explained that the 4th of July celebrates American independence from the British. The student thought for a moment and then said, "Oh, right. So, do you guys celebrate their independence from you then? Or do you just ignore it because you lost the war?" I worked at a hotel in Italy where an American guest called the front desk in a panic. He said, "My toilet is broken. I flushed it, and now it's trying to attack me with a stream of water." I went up to his room to find him cowering in the corner of the bathroom. I had to gently explain that he was looking at a bidet and what its function was. He looked at me with genuine horror and said, "You people have a separate toilet just for washing your butts? That's the most unhygienic thing I've ever heard of. Just use paper like a normal human being." My Swedish company was acquired by an American firm. The new CEO flew in and gave a motivational speech about hustle culture and working 110%. The next day, he called an emergency meeting at 5:30 p.m. Nobody showed up. He was furious until HR explained that in Sweden, the workday ends at 5 p.m. and work-life balance is legally protected. He called it the most anti-success business model he had ever seen. An American living in the UK went to the doctor for a minor issue. After the appointment, he waited at the reception desk to pay. The receptionist told him there was no charge because of the NHS. He was deeply suspicious. For weeks, he told all his friends, "I'm telling you, there's a catch. The bill is coming. Nothing that good is ever actually free. It's probably some kind of socialist trick to get my data. I'm not falling for it." An American tourist at a German spa was kicked out because he refused to take off his swim trunks. In the sauna area, he was screaming at the staff, "This is indecent exposure. I'm going to sue you all. In my country, we have morals and we respect families. This whole place is just a disgusting European free-for-all. You should be ashamed of yourselves." The staff just kept calmly repeating, "It is the rule." No swimwear in the sauna. My company in Montreal hired a consultant from Texas. On his first day, he heard my colleague answer a phone call in fluent French, then turn to him and speak perfect unaccented English. The Texan was amazed. He patted my colleague on the shoulder and said, "Wow, your English is incredible. It's great that you're learning a useful language for the business world. Keep practicing like that, and no one will even know you're from here." My colleague, who was born and raised in an English-speaking part of the city, was speechless. At a vineyard in the south of France, the sommelier was giving a tour. He explained the concept of terroir, how the soil, climate, and environment affect the taste of the wine. An American in the group interrupted him. "That's a nice story, but it's not really scientific. Is it in California? We just use technology and better irrigation to make our wine taste good every single year. We don't have to rely on magic dirt or the weather. It's about consistency and quality control, not tradition." An American tourist came into my pharmacy in Australia looking for painkillers. He asked for Tylenol. I explained that we don't have that brand. But that paracetamol is the exact same active ingredient. He looked at me suspiciously and said, "Paraceta, I'm not taking some weird foreign knockoff drug. I need the real stuff from America. It's not my fault you guys don't have access to proper medicine. I'll just wait till I get home. I guess. Hopefully, my headache doesn't kill me by then." I worked at a car rental agency in Alice Springs, Australia. An American couple wanted to rent our smallest compact car to pop over and see the Big Rock, Uluru. I explained it's a 9-hour round trip through the desert with no phone service, and they needed to carry gallons of water. The husband laughed and said, "Don't worry, we're from Texas. We know heat. We'll just put the AC on full blast and be back before sunset." How bad can it be? Nay, he thought our life-saving safety warnings were just an upsell tactic. I overheard this at a cafe in Vienna. An American was complaining to his wife about the coffee. I asked for a large coffee, and they gave me this tiny cup of black sludge. I can't drink this. I'm going to go find a Starbucks so I can get a real venti caramel frappuccino. At least they know how to make coffee properly. These Europeans are so behind the times. It's honestly sad. I was on a flight next to an American student who was looking at a world map on the in-flight screen. He turned to me and with genuine curiosity asked, "Why do they draw the maps like this with America not in the center? It's really confusing. It makes it look like we're just some country off to the side, but we're the most important one. They should have to put us in the middle. It's just more accurate that way." I was leading a tour along the East Side Gallery, the longest remaining section of the Berlin Wall. An American student in the group asked, "So when the government commissioned this wall, was the plan always to let artists paint on it?" I explained it was built by the East German regime to stop its citizens from fleeing to the West. He looked genuinely confused and replied, "So they built a wall to keep their own people in? That makes no sense. Why would anyone want to leave? Sounds like fake news to me." My friend in Tokyo works at a high-end department store. An American woman tried to haggle over the price of a designer handbag. The staff politely but firmly explained that the price was fixed. She got indignant and said, "Everything is negotiable. I'm a paying customer. Don't you people understand basic business? You're supposed to meet me in the middle? This is just terrible customer service. I could get a better deal online from a real company." My cousin, who is from Morocco, was at a conference in Chicago. An American colleague asked him, "So, what's it like living in the desert? Is it hard to get Wi-Fi for your tent?" My cousin explained that he lives in Casablanca, a modern port city of over 3 million people. The American looked disappointed and said, "Oh, so it's not like Aladdin at all. That's a shame. I thought it would be more exotic." I work customer service for an airline. An American called to complain about his flight from New York to Sydney. His issue wasn't the service or the plane, but the fact that he lost a whole day of his life because of the time difference. He demanded compensation for the stolen 24 hours. He said, "My ticket was for Tuesday, but I got there on Thursday. The airline literally stole a Wednesday from my life, and I want it back. This is a breach of contract. In America, time moves forward, not sideways." An American manager transferred to our office in India insisted on having a team-building barbecue. He was shocked when half the team who were Hindu explained they couldn't eat the beef burgers he was planning. He then suggested pork ribs, and the other half of the team who were Muslim said they couldn't eat that. He threw his hands up in frustration and said, "What is wrong with you people? It's just food. Can't you just be normal for one afternoon?" I was guiding a tour at the Normandy American Cemetery. A visitor from the States looking out over the thousands of white crosses asked me in all sincerity, "This is very moving, but where is the cemetery for the other side, the Germans? It seems biased to only honor the winners." In America, we believe in hearing both sides of the story. I was so stunned I couldn't even form a response. An American couple on a road trip through Canada pulled into my gas station. The man looked at the price, which was around $1.60, and shouted to his wife, "Honey, look, the gas is super cheap here." He proceeded to fill his massive SUV to the brim. When he came inside to pay and the total was over $120, his face went pale. "There must be a mistake," he insisted. I explained the price was per liter, not per gallon. He threw his hands up and said, "A liter? What the hell is a liter? That's a scam. You're deliberately tricking Americans with your fake measurements." I was a server in a high-end restaurant in Tokyo. An American family had a wonderful meal and were very complimentary. When they left, I noticed they had left a large amount of cash on the table. Thinking they had forgotten it, I ran out to return it to them. The father looked offended and said, "No, that's your tip for the great service." I tried to explain that tipping is not customary and can even be considered rude. He just shook his head and said, "Listen, son, good work gets rewarded. Don't be too proud to accept it. It's the American way." I was waiting in a very long, very orderly queue for a bus near Trafalgar Square in London. When the bus arrived, an American man who had been standing nearby walked straight to the front and tried to get on. An elderly woman tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, dear." The queue starts back there. The American looked back at the 30-person line, then back at her, and said with a shrug, "Oh, I'm not in a hurry. You guys can go ahead." He genuinely thought the queue was just a group of people who had coincidentally decided to stand in a neat line together. My friend is a wildlife guide in Costa Rica. He was pointing out a two-toed sloth hanging peacefully in a tree. After about a minute of silence, an American tourist loudly asked, "So, is it broken? Is it going to do anything?" My friend explained that sloths are famous for being incredibly slow and inactive. The tourist replied, "What a ripoff. I didn't pay to come all the way to this jungle to watch something sleep. In the zoos back home, the animals are at least trained to be entertaining. Can't you poke it or something?" I was on a train from Florence to Rome, sitting across from an American family. The teenage son was complaining about the view. "This is so boring," he said. "It's just a bunch of old farms and hills." His father nodded in agreement and added, "He's right. For such a famous country, it's surprisingly undeveloped. It kind of looks like rural Kansas, but with worse roads. They could really learn a thing or two from our infrastructure." I was working in a fromagerie in Paris. An American woman came in, looked at the hundreds of artisanal cheeses, and asked, "Don't you have any of the normal cheese?" I asked her to clarify what she meant. She said, "You know, the orange kind, the kind that comes in the little plastic wrappers." I politely explained that we only sold traditional French cheeses. She looked at the display with genuine disgust and said, "But this all looks rotten. There's mold on it. In America, our cheese is pasteurized and safe. This is a health hazard." An American tourist in a Madrid tapas bar was getting visibly angry. He called me over and said, "I've ordered 5 different things, and you keep bringing me these tiny little plates. Are these free samples? When is the actual food coming out? I'm starving. I want a real American-sized portion, not this dollhouse dinner." He thought tapas were the appetizers for a main course that never arrived. While I was studying in London, an American classmate of mine was genuinely confused about the monarchy. He asked our British professor, "So, when is the next election for king? I haven't seen any campaign ads." The professor explained that the monarchy is hereditary. The American student looked disgusted and replied, "So, you're telling me you don't even get to vote? What if the next guy is a total jerk? That's a dictatorship. We fought a whole war to get away from that kind of system. You guys should really try democracy. It's way better. A guest at the Irish hotel I worked at called the front desk to complain about his room key. He said, "My key card isn't working. I keep swiping it, but the light just flashes red." I went up to his room and saw him trying to swipe his credit card in the door lock. When I pointed out his mistake, he wasn't embarrassed. He just said, "Well, they look almost the same. They should make them more different." It's a design flaw.